March 2020. The pandemic had just begun. You and your wife, Bridget, who is also a manager for us, are pregnant with your first child after a few miscarriages. And you made the difficult decision to go on furlough, both of you at that time. What was going through your mind at that time?
A lot of uncertainty, kind of probably like everybody else in the world at that time, not knowing what it was, what was happening, not knowing what to do or what to expect. And after having a few miscarriages and making a decision that we didn't want to risk it again, didn't know what would happen if she got sick or if I got sick, made the decision that we needed to take the furlough. It was offered, it was something that was provided to us, and it was something we could do. We made that decision. I took 6 weeks off at that time and just spent time with her and my other children and making sure that we were just staying safe as we could. And then the time was, it's time to go back to work. It's time to go back and get things going and figure out what this is going to be like, because we can't just stay inside our house for the next 6 months, and made the decision to go back.
Join Charlie Maloof as he explores the personal journeys of Broad River Retail's very own memory makers. Welcome to Stories from the River.
Josh Stanley, welcome to the podcast. This is the Josh Stanley episode. Welcome, everyone. Stories from the River. You ready, Josh?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Here we go. Okay, well, before we get into it, I really want to know about your history before you came to the river. Share with us, if you can, a little bit about your personal history and your background before you joined the company.
All right. So this is my 23rd year of retail management. I graduated high school when I was 16 years old. And went to college, and I started managing right away. I worked at a sporting goods store as a department coordinator, and then worked at a college bookstore and at a movie theater as a shift supervisor. And then after I graduated college, worked at another college bookstore as an assistant manager, and then made the move to North Carolina, worked for GameStop. I was a multi-unit there, ran 5 locations for them, worked for there 7 years, and then went to CarMax and really enjoyed my time at CarMax, and then Broad River came calling, and made the decision to join 4.5 years ago.
Wow. And where are you from originally?
Originally from Michigan, so moved to North Carolina in January of 2009.
So books, games, cars, furniture. You've kind of hit all the bases, right?
Yeah, it's a wide variety of things there, but just different challenges and different opportunities, and really enjoy my time now at Broad River.
I love the overachievement of graduating high school at the age of 16. Well, I mean, were you like a year or two ahead?
Yeah, I did a PACER school as an elementary school.
Okay.
At a private school, and did first and second grade in the same year. I finished first grade in 9 weeks, so 1 marking period, and then moved and went to second grade and kept going from there. So well under the age of everybody else and my friends.
Well, it's early. We just got our first time ever. We just got our first time ever guest who graduated first grade in 9 weeks. That's pretty awesome. All right, so prior to joining the river, you came from CarMax and the car industry. How do you think that experience in particular prepared you for the move to Broad River Retail, Ashley, and the home furnishings industry? Do you see some correlations?
Absolutely. That was the first management position I had held where I was managing commission associates. That was new for me, and the mentality and the thought process that goes into commission sales versus just a standard retail position. And the other interesting thing from CarMax is the no negotiating and no haggle pricing. So coming to Broad River and having the ability to negotiate deals or follow a promotion and discounting, that was like a neat transition from that to commission sales and being able to do that.
Yeah, so commission sales, that's interesting because I think you really need that experience in our industry. And what about the financing element of it? How did that help prepare you?
Yeah, I didn't really have any experience before CarMax with that, but working with different lenders, working with different requirements of those lenders, especially with car, large purchase, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, making sure all the documentation is correct, making sure that you're doing everything the right way the first time. Don't want to have any issues with that. So that carried over well, understanding, being able to talk about finance, being able to have intelligent conversations with guests and as HFCs about the importance of getting it right the first time.
You hit on a really interesting point that I wasn't even thinking about, like the documentation and getting it right the first time. Not only the comfort with talking about financing for big ticket items and things of that nature, but being accurate and precise with the documentation. That's great. Okay, so something interesting about you is you had a really unique recruiting and interviewing experience with us. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I got an invitation email through LinkedIn through a former recruiter, Caitlin.
Uh-huh.
I had reached out, and I opened it up, and I'm looking at it, and you mentioned that Bridget worked for the company. I looked at it, I'm like, isn't this the company that's recruiting you right now? Aren't you talking with them? And I'd actually been to the Fort Mill campus before. The year before I even was recruited, I had drove Bridget down for an interview, and I sat in the parking lot, and she did an interview with you and Manny and Christian Adams.
Okay.
And so she did an interview then. I sat in the parking lot, and then fast forward a year, and I'm getting recruited. And I was like, I think I'm going to talk to him. I really enjoyed my time at CarMax, but it just wasn't, I don't want to say fulfilling enough, but it just wasn't at that time like what I felt I need to be doing. And had a chance to interview with Kevin Kinman, and as soon as I interviewed there, I left the interview saying I got to go work for that guy and I got to work for this company.
That's awesome. So you both interviewed together on that same day, like one right after another. I don't know if I interviewed Bridget the year before. She may have interviewed with Manny and some of the others.
Yeah.
But we had a back-to-back. You guys were engaged and you were about to get married, if I recall.
We had just got married. We got married on a Saturday, and then on Monday we drove to Fort Mill for the interview.
So did you do a delayed honeymoon?
We did a honeymoon before we got married because we went to vacation.
Okay. So we had newlyweds for the first time ever, newlyweds who, and it was awesome. And we'd been recruiting Bridget for quite a while, and you were like the added bonus that came along with it. I remember you were a little bit standoffish. I feel like we had to kind of like prove ourselves to you. Do you remember giving off that vibe at all?
No, especially at day 0, I came to it was the Amplify and Ignite event, and we had to do a presentation that day, and I presented for our group about a loyalty program. And so I got up, we sat in a group. I didn't know anybody at the company. I only knew the people I'd met that day, shook hands, and then I'm standing in front of you and Christian and everybody else presenting our program.
Well, yeah, okay, so you jumped a little bit ahead of me on this one. So another first time ever, I believe you coined the phrase day 0 because you had been hired after the interview when you and Bridget came in after being married for 2 days, and you came in, and so we hired both of you, made both of you an offer, and you both agreed to join us. And it was going to be a little bit later, I think, in a couple of weeks in September.
Yep.
And because you were going to give your company's notice, et cetera. But we had an event, a leadership summit, and so you were like you had accepted, but we said, hey, come see what the culture's all about. So before you had even started, you agreed to spend a day with us at our leadership summit. And there you're presenting on a loyalty program because we had a leadership summit exercise. Interestingly enough, I'm on the national steering committee, and we're working to finally get that loyalty program going. And hopefully we make some big traction on it in 2023. Everything comes full circle, Josh. What else was important about that day? What else do you remember about the Amplify and Ignite Leadership Summit that day?
The biggest thing for me in remembering that day was walking in, and I got to meet Kevin again and see him in person. I got to meet the rest of the East region at the time. I think I had a nickname before I even walked in. Someone had given me a nickname, J-Train. Michael Childers would give me that nickname before I even walked in. And just being there for that excitement, going back and the energy and the, like, is this real? I think you keep thinking that after day 0, is it just put on for that day? And then the next one we go to, like the next RX, nope, it's the same thing, and the same thing. And so just seeing that and being a part of that, and just like even talking about now getting a little bit of tingles in the arm again, just thinking about that day and the excitement we had, and just the ability to collaborate as a whole group on something. We all got together as different departments. Everybody was incredibly welcoming and accepting of both Bridget and I and our ideas and suggestions day 0.
Yeah, we probably couldn't have had a better like onboarding, pre-boarding setup for you and Bridget. And we should clarify for our audience, this was late August 2018.
Correct.
So you've been with the company a little bit over 4 years, correct?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. And so once we got past that awesome day 0 experience, now it's time to have your first day. And I tend to believe that everybody remembers their first day at a company. You'll never forget your 0 day, your day 0, but it was time to get to work. So do you remember your first day with Broad River? And if so, what do you remember about that day?
Yeah, I pulled into Cary really early. I started my career training as a RPM, retail performance manager, or GM in training. It's changed now to senior GM. And
or it's changed to
senior sales manager,
yeah,
senior sales manager. And I pulled into Cary. I had my suit and tie on and walked in and looked around and realized that I probably didn't need to wear a suit and tie for day one.
Nobody gave you that memo?
No one gave me that memo.
Unbelievable.
And I thought this is a professional environment. I came from CarMax where we had uniforms. You wore the same CarMax polo or required colors. And I walked in and I saw Michael stand there with a Broad River vest on. And I was like, okay, I can do this.
Okay, that's pretty funny. So what you mostly remember is how you came in, dressed to impress, and then you felt like you were a little bit overdressed.
Yeah, and then it was just having right away hitting the ground running, and it wasn't which I really appreciated. It wasn't hey, we're going to ease into this. You're one of our equals. We're training you to be an equal and training you to be a GM in our company. So let's treat you like a GM in our company.
Yeah, so you worked and learned under Michael Childers, who we've had on the podcast, who was a GM in Cary at that time. Okay, so it wasn't long before you got promoted to your first store, correct?
Correct. It was about 6 weeks after coming on to the company. We have an opportunity in Durham at Bull City, and we're going to go ahead and see if you want to make that move out there. I absolutely accepted that and went out to Bull City.
Awesome. So you've had a career of kind of continuing to grow. Take us through your various roles and transitions since you began. Just hit the highlights, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, so went to Durham in fiscal November of 2018 and worked there for a year. Had a lot of good memories, a lot of good time there. And then opportunity knocks, let's go to Wilson. So went out to the Wilson Warriors. They'd been open 5 months, maybe 6 months at that time, and took over Wilson and finished out another 6 months with them. And then pandemic, transition, Raleigh Outlet's open. Let's go to the outlet. Let's go take over this newer concept or a different concept with that. And then worked in the outlet through the pandemic. And then it was Fayetteville was open, and it's time to go to Titanium Fayetteville.
Okay, wow. And so you were at the Bull City Ballers for close to a year or so?
Yep, November through November.
Okay, and then you were in Wilson until you went, and that's where you were when you took your furlough, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then you came back, and you didn't go back into Wilson. I think Bridget went to Wilson.
Correct,
after
yep.
that. And you went to the Raleigh Outlet store, which is a brand new concept. And these are relatively new stores, Wilson and the Raleigh Outlet, Glenwood Gladiators. So you went to the Ballers, the Warriors, the Gladiators, Special Forces.
Special Forces.
Got it. And that's where you are today.
Correct.
And you also oversee Southern Pines Express as a senior GM, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. I think we've got it. And so we'll pull the layers back on a few of those and go through some of those. So you followed a trail of very successful GMs at the Bull City Ballers. Did anyone tell you about like the history of like who'd been there and where they had gone, or were you kind of familiar with the tradition at the Bull City Ballers?
Yeah, I was kind of going in there and knowing that they had Michael had taken it first and opened it and done really well there, and then Kevin had come in and ran it, and then they were still continuing to win and still continue to be successful. And hey, it's your turn now to continue the same trend.
Yeah, and they all kind of moved on and grown through the company. So tell us about like your recollections, your stories, and during your season, your 12 or 13 months leading the Ballers.
Yeah, I think it was a great opportunity for me to learn not only how to be a GM in this company, but also how to lead in this environment. The right store, the right size, the right mix, the right staff size. I think that was a good opportunity as well. And just figuring out, I think that's the thing that I always go back on, like figuring out how to win and figuring out how to lead. Each team is unique. Each store is unique. Each opportunity is unique. And you have to figure that out, and you have to lead. You can stand by certain principles and values and certain things that you do and certain ways that you do that, and then kind of tailor it to the team and who you have. And so going through with Bull City, I was brand new, and the sales manager, Aaliyah Hayes, and Ben Gamble wasn't a sales manager yet, but those were the first $2 million writers that I had the opportunity to lead there, and getting to watch them work. We had a few others that were part of the core group we had there, Kim and Brandon, and then we had a few other HFCs, and that was kind of our group. And we built it, we ran with it, see what we can do here, let's make it happen. I always go back and use finding the way to win, Bull City is that story I tell people even now. It's kind of like my uphill and snow both ways. Like I remember vividly having a day with, light traffic, and we had a budget to hit. And how are we going to hit that? Like we've got to win the day. And it was through the grit of the team and making phone calls and doing phone sales and following up on quotes and like seeing that live in that building allowed me to take that as an example and go to each building and say, here's some of the things you got to do to be successful.
Yeah, great training ground. Do you remember what your ambitions were when you first started with us and when you took over that store? Did you have grand ambitions, or was it just like, I just need to figure out what I'm doing here?
No, I'd done multi-unit at a previous company, and that's kind of what I wanted to get back into. But I also knew, like, I was told and by some great successful managers in this company, it's going to take a little bit of time. You're going to have to figure this out. Furniture is different. Leading commission associates is different in this environment. And so just take your time and just really learn the business, learn the game of furniture, learn how to do this, and then the rest of that stuff will come as you go along.
Yeah, that's awesome. And were you guys successful during your tenure at the Ballers?
Yes, very. I think we went 8-4 and 9-3 that year, and just it 100% because of the team that was there and the group that was there and the drive that they were showing.
We didn't prep on that particular question, but I just knew that you were going to know your monthly record, the 8-4, the 9-3 record. I had a strong suspicion that, and I was thinking that's about what it was, because I knew that you had tremendous success there. And Leah Hayes, who we've had on the podcast, was our first ever $2 million writer last year. And so she cut her teeth, and you got to see her kind of grow during her progression. And we got to get Ben Gamble on the podcast too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So do you remember your first Orange Crush OC3 when you were in Bull City?
I do remember that.
All right. Well, what do you remember about it?
So it was probably the first big presentation that I had to present for this company. I've done it for different companies, but this is the first one that I got to really put together and show more of the business acumen side of my thinking and the way we're going to do things. There was a lot of fun putting it together. We did the Purpose Begins Identity and our team name. So we were the Bull City Ballers at that time. And so located between UNC and Duke, and I'm a big sports fan of basketball. And so we put together a presentation around that. The ending of it, we cut down a net, and all of us got to take home a piece of the championship net.
I remember that. That was really cool.
And then, I believe Charlie got an extra gift there.
I did get an extra gift, and I think that was the time that you gave me the gray custom polo shirt, the Bull City Bombers custom polo shirt that your mom had embroidered the logo on there.
Yep, our whole team. My mother has a machine that can do that, and so she made all of our whole team. All the gentlemen had polos, and the ladies had sweaters that had it embroidered on it.
I loved that gift, and flattery will get you, and gifts will get you a lot. And in all seriousness, we were very impressed with your business acumen and that business plan. If I recall correctly, I believe that your plan was one of the upper echelon that we saw, and that really, I think, continued not just the success of Bull City, but having that proficiency and that acumen really your star continued to rise at Broad River among star retail leaders, and really kind of put you on the map, I think, and in terms of like making sure that we could find a career path to continue to challenge you, but challenge you the right way and have you grow. All right. So I think that you also, I had heard a story, and our company is not just about winning, but also about like how we treat our people. And so I think I also recall learning about how you had been personally paying to fill up the gas for one of your HFAs, someone in sales who hadn't had their commission checks really kind of get going yet and couldn't get to work because he didn't have gas money. And so he was struggling financially. He had just started with this. And I think you would take it into him personally. I think Kevin actually kind of let me know about it because I wouldn't know about these things ordinarily. And I just think that illustrated how much you cared for your people and those in your charge as the leader. Is that a true story? Can you tell?
Yeah.
Without giving away names or anything. And I know you probably don't want to brag on yourself or anything like that, but just tell us like why that came about or why you decided to take it upon yourself to help someone out to make sure they could get to work.
It comes from Renee Bradley. Honestly.
How so?
She had done, for those, I've been around long enough to know that when Renee didn't like to do presentations, and I don't believe she was area manager or multi-unit yet, but I think she was still running the lake, but she was still presenting as a leader in the company. And she had given a presentation on the ripple effect. And it's something that I remember. I still remember it today. Like, it comes down to like the smallest thing could change the biggest ocean, right? The smallest little ripple. And she just did that presentation, and I just processed it and processed what does that look like for me in my building? What does it look like for my team? And had an HFA that was struggling. And the thought was, what if his inability to come to work is impacting his quality of life, his inability to be here is also adding stress to him outside of work, inside of work, and just all around. What if that one tank of gas, or what if that gas is the difference between him and changing his life? What if that one tank of gas is the difference between him making a temper sale, which then in turn allows him to take some stress off him and his family? And it stemmed from that. So just follow me down here. Let's put some gas in, or cash up. I cash up him some money as well. And just as, you can pay me back, whatever it looks like. I'm not worried about it. Let's eliminate one of the obstacles or roadblocks that's getting in your way of selling, so you can focus on selling.
I really like that story. I love the ripple effect connection there, how you drew that metaphor to it. Well, what are you most proud of during your tenure with the Ballers?
I think the biggest thing that I'm proud of is not only learning and learning how to win and learning the business, but also I always go back to just the people that were there. I think that's the biggest thing. And like I mentioned Leah and Ben, but like watching that like you hear about $1 Million Riders and $1 Million Riders season and hearing about that, but like being a part of it and living it, and like that's the exciting part. Like those are the things that you get excited for, and those are the things that you go back to when you're interviewing people, and those are the examples you go back to when you're transitioning to a new store, and just going to those things. And that's the best part about it. Is I really enjoyed what we put together for Orange Crush. I really enjoyed that time with the team and learning and growing the team, and then seeing their first $1 Million Rider and my first $1 Million Riders in the company, seeing them.
Did they cross in 2018 or 2019?
2019. So
before you left.
Yeah, before I left.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome. And any other standout performers at the Ballers?
Yeah, I mean, she's no longer with the company, but Kim Bittman.
Yeah, I remember KP.
KP, yeah, she was incredible. And she really taught me what it was called CRM at the time.
Okay.
But she really taught me the art of CRM, and she was always working guests, always working leads, always working something.
I remember us talking about that actually in Durham, maybe late one night traveling through stores, and you talking about that. It was a great way to kind of apply the win the day mindset. And KP, let's go find a prospect. Who can we call? Who are we working? Okay, so then you moved from Bull City to the Wilson Warriors, and you did the 6-month stint that we talked about as the GM in Wilson. And if I recall correctly, Wilson had tremendous success during your time there as GM. What can you share about your memories and stories while leading the Warriors?
Yeah, so I took over after Ray Templeton, and the store had won every month since it had been open. And so I couldn't let that drop on my watch. So we finished the entire year 12-0 that year.
Wow.
It went 12-0 since it opened. The team there is a really gritty team, really engaged with the VIP. That's something that I learned in Bull City, was VIP was the key, and it translates later on in my career. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. And so wanted to carry that through with Wilson. And so led the company in VIP there several months in the Cowbell Trophy. And that team was really dialed into the process and having fun and selling furniture.
Well, so you mentioned the Cowbell Trophy. For those in our audience who don't know what the Cowbell Trophy is, so tell us what the Cowbell Trophy is.
Yeah, so the Cowbell Trophy is for the top store in financing, or VIP, for the month. It was in Durham, and when it was there, it has a cow on the trophy. And because I was in Bull City, I honestly thought it was a trophy for the store because it kept staying there. And then Christian Adams came in one day and was like, that's actually the company trophy, but you guys just keep it here because you keep winning. So going to Wilson, wanted to take it with us there.
Awesome. And why Cowbell, just for our audience?
So we call it Cowbell from a acknowledgement standpoint. We ring bells in the store. We ring bells as an awareness play. And so we're going to ring the bell. It's going to not only have the guest ask a question, what was that bell for, but it's also an awareness play for our HFCs to, hey, it's time for me to go talk about VIP again, talk about Cowbell, talk about what that was, and present financing again.
VIP is enrolling someone in our VIP program, which is our financing program. That's awesome. And so then, we're coming out of the pandemic, and there's an opportunity to we talked about earlier, to go to Raleigh Outlet, the Glenwood Gladiators, in June of 2020. You're coming back off of furlough at this point, and the Raleigh Outlet, Glenwood Gladiators, had just grand opened like the day before the pandemic in mid-March. And it was a very new store with a very new team and a new concept, a couple miles down the road from our original Raleigh Ashley home store. This was, obviously a very unique time to be in retail during the middle of a global pandemic. And you were with the Gladiators for just about a year. So I'd like to take these topics kind of one at a time during your year with the Gladiators.
Okay.
Let's start by, just telling us about your team while you were there.
That was the first team I had. That was, I think the whole team was HFAs. When I took over, we had a couple.
Can I stop you for a second? So when you say HFAs for our audience, just to kind of, what's an HFA versus an HFC, HFP, HFE?
Yeah, so HFA is a home furnishing associate. It's where all new employees start at on the sales floor. And then as you sell and hit certain metrics and different criteria, you can move up. So you can go to a home furnishing consultant, so HFC, home furnishing professional, HFP, or an expert, HFE.
So by saying you had all HFAs, you had either a brand new or really an experienced staff.
Or really new. We had a couple veterans on the team that had been, but they were actually transferring. They'd got the store open, and then were transferring to different locations.
Okay.
So I did have one sales manager that had been with the company a year and had been $1 million writer, and that he stayed. That was Anton.
So you had a brand new team, and now the concept of an Ashley outlet, or that time I think we called it Ashley Home Store Outlet, and how it was different than an Ashley Home Store at that time. Now it's just an Ashley store. We've taken Home Store out of it. So tell us about the concept of an Ashley outlet.
Yeah, it's an everyday low price model. It's, in the home stores and in the Ashley stores, we do certain items might be on sale. They might be hot buy or extra discounted. Well, the outlet is always low prices. Always everything is already discounted. The price is the price. And so going back to my CarMax days, that fit in for me because I'm used to no haggle, no negotiating. Like, this is the price. We're going to give you the best price up front. Here you go. And just because it's an outlet doesn't mean that it's going to be damaged or discounted goods. It's still high quality Ashley product.
It's not clearance goods.
It is not clearance goods.
Yeah.
It is high quality, brand new Ashley product, just at a discounted price
that you can have delivered to you, et cetera. And it may be a different assortment. I don't know how much you had as the same assortment from up the street.
The goal was, I believe, was 80 to 85% was different than the home store on the street.
Got it. And so how did our guests perceive it as compared to the Ashley store up the road on Glenwood Avenue? Did you experience a lot of cross shoppers between our outlet and the Ashley store? And if so, how did you handle that?
Yeah, I think originally it was, is this the discounted, like we talked about, is it discounted or is it damaged furniture? No, it's not. It's just a different assortment. Ashley has over 7,000 different SKUs. We can't show them all in the showroom. So let's go ahead and I think the biggest thing, that the difference is really communicating what it was. I think that's the biggest difference coming from the home store than going to the outlet, was making sure that every guest that came in understood the difference. We are Ashley. It is all brand new. We're still the same company. Mm-hmm. It's just a different assortment of product.
And other than kind of explaining that difference, was there a difference in the sales process?
Yeah, so there wasn't as much negotiation as it wasn't as much promotion. Marketing was very similar. Like, this is the kind of the promotion we follow, and this is kind of, it's going to be set up that way. We also had a lot more take with items you could take home today, as far as like accent pieces that would be in boxes and ready to go, which is different than the home stores. So there's that, but the sales process was more, in my opinion, it's more engaging. Like, you have to be really dialed in with that guest because you've got to figure out what it is they're looking for and really going after that sale, knowing that you're talking about features, benefits about this and why it's priced this way and what the actual advantages that we've already got it priced that way.
Yeah, and so whether it's like a good, better assortment versus a better, best assortment, or whether because it's already discounted, or whether it's because there's smaller spaces or apartments, or you had a little bit lower average ticket. And some of that could have been from the take with the immediate gratification customers. So all that could have factored in. But all that to say, I bet you had to be really tight on your operations, your inventory integrity, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So we did a business plan in January, I believe, that year, February, we presented our business plan. And one of those was having the REM of the year. That was one of my goals. And that was Christina Zani. She did win it that year.
That's awesome.
But part of that was also, we were the first store that had zero written wrongs for a quarter.
Wow.
So we had order accuracy, and then we did it a second quarter, and we actually did it 3 out of the 4 quarters that year with no written wrongs or no orders written with any incorrect information. It was caught.
You know what's really impressive about that is you said you had a brand new staff, and so they never learned bad habits. And I guess going back to your CarMax days where you said documentation and accuracy was so important, because there can be nothing more frustrating, I guess, than a customer like having their special delivery and realizing they got a red sofa instead of blue sofa, or a 36-inch bar stool instead of a 24-inch bar stool or something like that, or a different configuration on the sectional than they were expecting.
It was really, not that it's not important every day, but that was during COVID. So it was even more vitally important that we get the order right the first time, because if they have to wait delayed weeks based on PODs or different things, then we got to make sure that this product is correct when it gets there. They've already been waiting. Let's make sure it's right. And so we emphasize that. And like I said, Christina Zani, phenomenal REM that I had the pleasure of working with there. And she was really on top of all of that. And with all the take widths and the different items that could be leaving, inventory control was crucial there.
You know, it's interesting. Christina also started in the sales floor with us in the other Raleigh store. And so that she had some experience before she got into retail operations, which was interesting. So you also had something pretty unique to the Raleigh outlet. You had next door combined a really large premium mattress gallery with its own entrance. How did you enjoy having that connected to your outlet?
That's probably, in my opinion, still the prettiest gallery we have in the company. I'd love to have it in Fayetteville or any other store as well. It's a really neat concept as far as it's got its own signage out front, and it draws in that not only is it just an Ashley outlet, but also we have this amazing gallery as well. We have amazing mattresses, and it introduced a different experience for the guest, having those 2 doors and 2 different entrances. I think it was Augusta has that as well now, right? Or 2 different doors?
Yeah, one for the outlet, not for their gallery, but one for their outlet. But we had to fight to get that extra signage, but I'm sure it helps bring awareness and mattress shoppers. Oh, I can go get a mattress. Let me go see what they've got.
Absolutely.
And so what are you most proud of during your time as GM of the outlet?
I think for really, I already mentioned Christina, but that was like, it's one thing to talk about that you want to do something. You're going to be the REM of the year. You want to be a store of the year GM. But honestly, like we put in place, like if you're going to be the REM of the year, here's some of the things you're going to do. Here's some things we have to do as a store. Let's make sure we all help each other. And then it still goes back. It's another people thing, but the lives that are changed, like that's how one of the things I'd use to measure success is, and one of the phrases, even during my interviews, is like, one of my tenets for who I am is, I want you to make more money after you met me than before me. And my role is to help you through that. And I can help you sell. Maybe it's teaching you the process, teaching you TOs, any of those things that look like. And I think back on like Tyler, and I know Stacy met him and shared him on LinkedIn at one point, but he was walking to work. Working for Broad River, had just gotten the job there. It had just opened. It's the pandemic. He's walking to work and he gets his first management job, gets his first car. He became a $1 million writer. Interviewed and hired another amazing candidate, Jamaica Baker, $1 million writer at the outlet. And now she's transitioned to our E-team, our online team, and doing a great job there. And I remember sitting down with her when she interviewed, and she had written down like this little goal book she had. And the year before she started Broad River, I think she had made less than $10,000 for the pandemic and serving and different things. And I said, you're going to need to add another 0 to that. That's what we're going to go for. And she called me on FaceTime the day she bought her car, and called me and to let me know that she was buying her first house. Like, those are the things that like are exciting. And like we talk about our purpose being furnishing life's best memories, but like those are life's best memories. And like that, I had a small part in helping them be successful, just helping lead that team. That's the things I get excited about.
That's really cool. How meaningful was it to Christina and to your team when she got REM of the year?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, the validation that you get from that, being she had been a salesperson, she had worked, and she worked under the amazing Missy Charity, right? Who's a operations beast, and like learning from her and then coming down and doing it in her store, and in a store that some people might say would be operationally challenged. You have new HFAs, brand new people, and the take with, and all these things. And she owned it and owned that process and made sure we had clean inventory.
So you were there during the low lows and the high highs of the pandemic. And so, because there were opportunities for both, right? What was that experience like from your perspective?
It was, when you say low lows, it was low. And
what made it low?
I think, and I was actually talking about it with some different people as I was getting prepared to come on this, just thinking back on those times, and like, I wanted to own it, like the success, like it's going to happen, like, but it's that pressure. It's probably like what you feel for the entire company, but on a smaller scale, for me and the team there. But when you're wondering,
the emotion's the same though, right?
I mean, where's the next delivery coming from? How am I going to get paid? How am I going to pay the bills? And I just, part of one of the superpowers I feel that I have is I care about my people. It could be to a fault, but I care about my team. And those are the things I'm worried about. Like, where are they going to get the next paycheck? How are they going to get paid? How can I help them sell?
And you're talking about the low lows from the supply chain issues that we started having in the
PODs,
back half, in the back half of 2020, when there was a lot of demand and not a lot of product coming in.
And I remember Janet Lime Cooler, right? And I vividly remember this, and even to the point of like tearing up a little bit talking to her. I knew that there was something that was just, I was like, I don't know if it's the outlet, but like there's something wrong with the sales. Like, I can't sell anything. I can't. Again, I was trying to explain it, but I didn't understand what it was. And she was the first person to validate that for me. She went and ran a report, and the top 35 sellers we had been furloughed when Ashley had done a furlough of the product. So my top 35 sellers were furloughed.
That's a whole other level of detail.
But I will say this: when it goes low lows, and I was talking about with another HFC earlier. Like, Broad River stepped up at that point. That's when you started doing the guaranteed pay or the compensation and different things to make sure that people were being paid, and being able to lead to like, hey, well, at least we got this guarantee for you guys. Let's try to outsell that. But at least we know that it takes some of that pressure off of knowing where the next paycheck's coming from. Yeah,
I mean, I think what you're alluding to there is like our commission sales force gets paid when the company gets paid, when we deliver the product. But when we weren't delivering it, they weren't getting commissions, and we had to figure out how we could insulate and protect against that. So we were doing things like top off programs and guaranteed minimum pay and fronting the money and things to make sure that we can ensure a healthy quality of life. So what were the high highs though? Was it the demand? What were the high highs that you may have experienced?
No, I think for me and like there's still people that worked doing it. Like Danica is still there. Like, she worked through the low lows and worked through all that and still there and still being successful. And I think it was always like, that's what I lean on, like learning about yourself. And I talked about being in management 20 plus years. Like, that's probably the most difficult year of management I've ever had, was that year. But also knowing like we went through that, we came on the other side, we're still going and growing, and there's still opportunity. And through all of that, there was still demand for it. So it was great to see that. And there was still, there was guests coming in every day, and there was guests that we had to serve, and we need to do the best we could.
What did you learn about yourself during the pandemic?
That I can take a lot.
Okay.
I pride myself on work ethic. I think I have high work ethic and want to work and do the right thing and be there. But like, you don't know like what you can do, or you challenge yourself. And I can put in days. I've done that for other companies where you just work and work and work, but the mental and the physical load of doing that, and the stress and pressure of the other, 12 teammates I have, and making sure that we're all going to make it through. And I think that's just like it was a team vibe, and just really, hey, like, we are doing this together. Like, all of us are doing this together. Like, we got to figure out a way to make it through, and just every day picking someone up.
You were in a retail war, and you got tested, and you learned.
Battle tested for sure.
So what did you learn about leadership during the pandemic?
It's a phrase that we say all the time now, but it's like everything rises and falls on leadership. And it does. If I came in upset, frustrated, down, whatever, the team was going to take that. And another quote that I've picked up after that from Mr. Carl Hillsland, he always quotes someone different. I'm not sure who said it, but he wrote on my board. But you have to think about what you're thinking about when your energy and effort is low. And like, I didn't know that quote at the time, but I knew what I needed to do during the time. I had to come in. I had to be the energy. I had to be excited. I had to be positive. I could be frustrated with things just like everybody else, but I had to lead by example. We had to be positive. We had to keep making it happen. We had to keep doing that.
So you learned that you can do hard things, and then you did a lot of self-discovery on leadership and introspection. That's awesome. So what were some of the challenges that really stood out for you in leading a team in home furnishings during this time? Was it really supply chain, or was it wearing the mask? Was it being safe? Was it dealing with illnesses and sicknesses and COVID related issues, or was it the social unrest issues? What were like some of the challenges that really stood out?
It was kind of a combination of everything, but it was more, you had the unknown, the uncertainty. Every day it was a different report of is it getting worse? Is it getting better? The uncertainty of where's the product coming from? We know it's coming, and we know we have product to deliver. We just got to get it delivered. The mental side of it, I think that's sales is a mental game, and
Absolutely.
it is 100% a mental game. And so constantly speaking to the mental side of it, taking the recognizing being able to read the team, reading their faces, reading their body language, and have conversations to pick them up, or recognize when you might need a break. Why don't you go take a break real quick and just to recompose yourself or get back? Like it was just a lot, and it was the unknown of when it's going to end.
Okay. And how do you think this adversity made us better individually, or made you better individually and us better as a company?
Oh, we said it during that time, but pressure exposes cracks, and it gave us a chance to address some of those things, to be more forward thinking and be more proactive than reactive. I think from a company standpoint, I know it comes down to stock levels, and we've gotten multiple warehouses and ways to safeguard against that now. The scheduling process, Project Ship came out of that, and being able to, the way that we got the product from Ashley, and that kind of changed some of that as well. And then just leading the team, like I said it the whole time, and I'm seeing it now more. If you could sell through that time, and you could sell people and convince people to wait, knowing that you're going to have to wait 8, 12, whatever weeks it was at that time, how much better of a salesperson are you going to be when the deliveries are 2 weeks out or 2 days out? Like, think about it then, like how much better. And we had people breaking records then.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so then after, a few years with the success with the Ballers, and then with the Warriors, 6 months stint, and then nearly a year or so with the Gladiators in May 2021, and those all three were relatively, a little bit on the below average volume in terms of traffic and sales. You got the call up to the big show, right? You jumped a few levels and took over a high volume, titanium level, top 2 or 3 store for us when you took over the Special Forces. How did it feel to have earned this promotion and to take on the store at this time?
I think the biggest thing for me is more about validation. Like the work that I was doing wasn't going unnoticed. The success that we were having, not from a patting yourself on the back, but just like I goes back to that team. Like, and I think about one of my mentors that I've had in a previous company, Rodney Bird, and one of the best piece of advice he ever gave me was, you take care of your people, everything else will take care of itself. And so that's something I learned in my 20s and taking the spotlight off and just focus on the people. And it was about our team. Like we won in Bowl City. Okay, let's go win in Wilson. Okay, we won in Wilson. Let's go win at the outlet. And now it's, you know what, like we trust you. Let's go take over the titanium store. Let's go take over this big box and let's see what we can do.
I don't know if it applies in every context, but I definitely know it applies in retail management, retail leadership. You take care of your people, and the rest will take care of itself. So what was the experience like in Fayetteville at the Special Forces in terms of the store, its traffic, the size of the staff, the volume, its customer base, being next to a military base there in Fort Bragg, and its team? Was it different than the previous stores that you'd led?
Yeah, so first off, I took over and we had a full staff. It was the largest staff I'd had the chance to lead in Broad River. I think when I took over, we had 21 or 22 HFCs total, plus an AGM with Jose and an REM and an REC, and this is a full support staff. So retail experience manager and a retail experience coordinator for those that don't know, the operations team a little bit in our store. And we had more $1 million writers than I've ever had in the building, more experts in the building than I'd ever had. And just the ability to walk in and follow in some big shoes and big footsteps. David Walters has been in the business a long time with multiple companies. He's at Broad River and he's very successful. He led through the pandemic and had a record year as well. So just taking over that team and having a chance to be a part of that and be a part of something special like that was huge.
Yeah, so you mentioned the year before and David Walters, and they had a really special team in 2020, a record-setting year for them, and I believe they had been promoted to titanium that year. And so how did it go the rest of 2021 once you had taken over the reins?
Yeah, the goal was, how can we beat last year? How can we beat and be better? What can we do to improve upon that? How can we get more experts? Like we had some, how do we get more? How do we get more $1 million writers? How do we exceed what was done when you're, like I said, David ran a great show, a great team, and that store was really humming along, but what can I add to it to make it better? And I think we finished at just under 17 million, 16.9, and just a huge number there, something really proud of, and that team accomplished that.
So we're noticing a common trend. You're going into successful locations, and you're not being satisfied with the success and just maintaining status quo. You're always looking inward, like, let's do better. And you're setting these goals, and you're enrolling your people in the goals. There's a lot of great leadership, just themes and lessons there, I think. Switching gears to the RPC, the Retail Performance Council. That's something that we have. And this is where the top performing GMs earn the right to serve on a leadership development and advisory council. When did you become a member of the RPC?
I was actually on it twice.
Okay.
I became on it during my time at Durham in Bull City, and then again with the Special Forces.
Okay, and how's that experience been?
It was a really great experience from a learning and just being in the room. I think that anytime you have a chance to sit down and have a conversation with the owners or the leaders in charge of retail and share your ideas and know that your idea is being listened to, that's unique. That's part of our Broad River culture. That's probably part of what makes us successful, right? Is the fact that we get to do that, and just being a part of that and being recognized. It's a spot you have to earn. It's not just chosen, but you have to earn it.
And you can lose it.
And you can lose it.
Yeah, so you have to maintain the performance. Yeah, okay. I love it. And so then this past April, we opened, I think is our first 7.0 actually store near Fayetteville.
Beautiful.
In Southern Pines. And you got additional duties to your GM position, overseeing this store as well, in the senior GM role. And I believe you began referring to the two stores as the reinforcements, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Purpose begins with identity, which we said. You can tell us how you came up with that. And so this is something we've done with high-performing GMs, helping to oversee smaller stores in smaller towns or satellite locations, something with a newer or less experienced GM. So Southern Pines got off to a very fast start and has exceeded our expectations. What's the experience been like for you with this promotion to a senior GM and in taking over the oversight of the Southern Pines Express?
Okay, so it's like a two-part there. So reinforcements, you ask where did that come from? It's more like a two-part. So Fayetteville and Special Forces is a top volume store, and it's a store that has to be successful for our company to be successful, and I take that very seriously. And so we help support the company in that way. So I have to support my team and be that way as well. But also with the new store, I have to help support that store too. And so kind of reinforcing the behaviors there, not only reinforcing John as our GM at Southern Pines, but reinforcing him and his leadership, but also helping to reinforce and help support the East. So that's kind of where it came from with that. And then the challenge of running a second store and helping oversee that, it's a different challenge because being in the store myself, this is here's my standard, here's what we're going to do here, and every day you get to impact that. But now I impact it once a week or through the phone calls every day, but not having that direct touch on it so it's leading through others and having that conversation with John and letting John is very successful. He was successful, John Hedges. He was $1 million writer for us in our Raleigh location. He's had some great leadership with Sam and Rick Rush, and so he knows what he's doing, but how can I add to that and still let him do his John Hedges thing, but also help support and reinforce what we need to do as an organization.
Has it been a learning curve for you to, in terms of embracing how to not let the current store lose its luster, if you will, or its performance level, while also spending some time and taking some duties to Southern Pines? Absolutely,
I think that's I had some multi-unit experience with the previous company with GameStop. I had 5 locations there, but it was a lot different as far as retail because it's more traditional. With commission, it's a lot different like we've talked about before. So yeah, you have to balance your time. You have to look at that. You have to look at all those different things and make sure that both stores are getting the attention they need and seeing where those opportunities are at.
Okay. And so then as a senior GM, that gives you a right or seat at the table on the senior retail leadership team. So what's your experience been like serving on the senior retail leadership team?
It's kind of like the RPC, but just amped up even more. It's that seat at the table, but also earning and belonging at the table. And as multi-unit now, there's different conversations, different conference calls, different things you're a part of. And so there's a lot more you get to input you get to have, and a lot more insight into the company you get to have and see It's from high up, like 90,000 feet up, and all the way down to the ground level. So you're in a unique role that you're in a store, but you also get to see some of the things that are coming down the way and ways to impact that.
Got it. So it's broadened your aperture, but it's also, you've gotten some more responsibilities. So I believe you're running now our Saturday morning sales meetings with all VIP sales managers across the organization, those 8 a.m. Saturday calls. And how are you enjoying this in addition to your role? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. VIP is, if you wanted to, like, what are you known for? What's your store known for? Like, are you a sleep store or different things? Like, VIP is what I've hung my hat on the whole time. I learned that really quickly. You have to be able to pay for the furniture for it to be in order. So why not use our money and not yours? That's where VIP comes into play, or financing. And so it was something ingrained, and taking that from Durham and then Wilson and growing it in the outlet, and then taking it to a different level in Fayetteville. And that's really something I'm passionate about. I'm really excited about having those calls every Saturday and being a part of that, and the extended reach of having those conversations and seeing the excitement from the VIP sales managers and their excitement as they're growing and learning and what they can do for their business.
It's like part learning, part goal setting, part motivation, part just what's the score and how are we going to go, and part best practice sharing, right? Okay, so in-person events, whether it's RX meetings, sleep summits, soirees, galas, leadership meetings, Purpose 828, semi-annual events. We talked about Orange Crush 3 earlier. I think you also talked about RX. You mentioned that earlier in passing. So we've had several, other in-person events and reasons to celebrate, many of which were pre-COVID. From a retail perspective, we have RX meetings. What is an RX meeting and why is it important?
So RX, this is how it's a retail experience meeting, but it's also RX like a prescription for how to be successful. It's a collaboration and join together of all the GMs and AGMs of the company, and let's start sharing ideas and best practices and what's working and the direction and where we're going and why we're going there. Stacy gets to come in and talk, and Carl, and the different directors we've had, and you and Manny, and just share the direction of the company and where we're going and how we're going to get there, and kind of laying out that roadmap, or like I said, prescription about like this is how we're going to get there.
Yeah, the prescription is the plan. That's the planning process of how we're going to go win the month. And then also the part of connecting and sharing vision and goal setting is really, really important. We started calling them retail excellence, and we just dropped the E and call it RX because it's a prescription. So, but it's a great time to kind of get together, and we have to do them distributed now across campuses sometimes in person. You just have to be a little bit creative in this day and age. And as we've grown as a company. So I believe you've attended 2 of our sleep summits, including the most recent one that we held this past May. What is a sleep summit, and what do they do for our memory makers and for the company?
Sleep Summit is a gathering with our partners and our vendors to talk about the new lineup for mattresses. And it's just a big training session for every single memory maker, GM, sales managers, HFAs, HFCs, whatever level you are. Every single person goes through the Sleep Summit to learn about what we have to offer, learn about the product, and be more informed and explain and teach and share to our guests how it can impact them.
Yeah, I don't think it's all at once. Isn't it like over like 3 days and there's like 5 sessions and you have to come in and pick one of the 5 sessions?
Correct. It's split up, and every single, like the different groups are split up, and so the stores are still covered, everybody's still open, but it's just a great time to learn about what we have to offer and what lineups are coming so we can be more informed.
Yeah, and win prizes, win mattresses, go to Top Golf afterwards, hang out, etc. So it's always a good time. Okay, so do you remember our Year of Purpose in 2019 and our inaugural Purpose 828 event on August 28th, 2019? We converted our Leadership Summit to a Purpose Summit. And so what do you remember about the first Purpose 828, which was a year after the Amplify and Ignite Leadership Summit that you had attended on your day 0 in 2018, with Zach Mercurio, Justin Barnes, Janine Moniz, Justin Jones-Fosu, and Dr. V?
Yeah, so Purpose 828 was a really special event. It truly was. We had the artist drawing out the inspired art or whatever.
Angelique McAlpine from Drawing Impact.
So she's drawn out every session, like the key thoughts and the key ideas, and that was really cool to revisit later and see all those pictures. And then Dr. Jones-Fosu, right? You said
Justin Jones-Fosu. Yeah.
Yep, I follow him on
10.
Yeah, on 10. Follow him on LinkedIn and follow him and see different things. And he's really taken his platform and doing different things. really inspirational there. And just all the speakers we had, just really dialing into what is purpose, what are we talking about with purpose, and why we do what we do. And then unveiling like the purpose statement and furnishing life's best memories, and the painting that was commissioned with the dinner table that's hanging in Fort Mill. Just really like tying into something more than like, I work here because I work here, but why do I work here and why do I do what I do?
So we held our first ever home furnishings expert and premier partner soiree this past August. Why was this event so memorable and special?
You know, the year prior, I had missed the gala. I was sick right before COVID, and that was the last event we'd done before COVID. So this was the first one since then, and getting everybody back together. And as an expert soiree, it's a really select group of people. To be an expert in this company, there's so many criteria you have to hit and metrics and things you have to do. And it truly is a privilege and an honor to be a part of that. And so having, I have 6 at Fayetteville, a phenomenal group, and being able to be a part of that and to attend that event was truly amazing. Really went all out. Oak Steakhouse in Charlotte.
Yeah, we bought out the Oak Steakhouse for the night. You have 6 experts in Fayetteville?
Yes, sir.
I think we only have like 30 in the company. So you got like 20% of them. Yeah, the expert is the creme de la creme. It's the cream of the crop. It's the top of the line for us. And it's a more exclusive club than being $1 million memory maker at Broad River, because it's much tougher to achieve. And those expert perks do pay. So I mentioned our year of purpose earlier. How important have annual themes been, in your opinion, in contributing to our culture, as well as rallying everyone around a common cause or initiative?
I think it's incredibly important. And, you know, we've said it a couple times, but purpose begins with identity, but also the year has that identity. So this is the year of thrive. And when we break down that word and what does thriving mean to every single person, we talked about B tags and how we're going to get back to that culture and coming out of the pandemic and getting back to a normalized delivery schedule. All those are things that not only is the company thriving at that point, but also the individuals within it. And I think that when you tie it back to, and you have that common theme or word, like you can understand like what the year is going to be about, and then everything layers in with that.
Yeah, in 2020, it was united, and that was a really prophetic word to have to go into the pandemic. And then it became 2 words in 2021. We still wanted to go forward, but forward together to bring the legacy of united. And when this airs, it will be in 2023. And so 2022 was thrive. We proved that we could thrive during a pandemic. And so let's thrive in spite of any circumstances. And so the 2023 word of the year is soon, an annual theme is soon to be unveiled, but we won't give it away right here just yet. So you mentioned purpose begins with identity. How important is it for a retail store to have its own unique identity? And I know this is probably unique to Broad River, but how have you leaned into this to build culture within your teams?
Yeah, I'm a big sports fan. I'm a big basketball fan. So it's easy for me to understand the concept of team, but that doesn't mean that every single person in the organization has been a part of that or been part of sports or can relate to that. But you are part of your team. You're part of your building and what you're going to accomplish as a group. Like in Special Forces, we take pride in certain things. We take pride in winning the Cowbell Trophy, like we talked about. We take pride in winning Yoda, being the top store of the month, and being in the Final Four for those and in the running for those things. And we just pride ourselves on being a premier store within our organization. And so tying into that, and like we are Special Forces, we're part of that. You know, some GMs will change the name, or we've done some name changes of stores. But when I came to Fayetteville, like I was joining that successful team. I wasn't trying to change that. I was just being a part of it.
Okay. Do you recall the groundbreaking ceremony in May 2019 for the new campus to announce the new campus in 4 Oaks, North Carolina? Other than it being a very hot day, what do you recall about that milestone day, and why was it so special?
It was special because, you know, we talked about even talking to you before that, it was this is a 3 or 5 year vision plan that's going to be out here for years. And then we had to pull it way forward based on the performance of what the East was doing. And you know, fortuitously, it was great that we had it going right before the pandemic, right at the time of the pandemic. That's so we had this extra warehouse space. But yeah, it was really incredible that we brought it forward based on our performance.
How much pride did all of the East region retail leaders really take in seeing this vision come to fruition and pulling it forward several years earlier than we had announced it? I think we announced it in maybe August 2017 or 2018 is something that we would get to one day, and we cast this vision. I think we had to announce like January 2023 we'd be breaking ground. So it was far enough away when it was first announced. So how much pride did you guys really take in feeling like that had earned it and the ownership of that?
Oh, we took a lot on that. I think with Kevin Kinman, it was named The Rock based on him, and we've gone through his podcast, and an honor to him. But like as East, we took that cue from our leadership, and it was a really incredible thing and it was something that we were all a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Every single store had to contribute to get that. Every store had to generate sales and orders, and the need for that warehouse for us to get it going.
Yeah. So Josh, now that we've really gone through COVID-19 and the pandemic, and it's really moved into the endemic phase, when you look back over the last 2.5 years, what is it that you're really proud of that you'll look back on fondly?
I think first is, I'm still here. I think that was there's been change and there's different opportunities for people, but we had great vision through you, Manny, Stacy, and a clear path through and what we were going to do. And the people are still here. Like we're still standing, and a lot of the $1 million writers and the experts that were there before are still here, and they saw that vision. They saw what this company could do, and trusted the leadership and where we're at. And it just gives you more faith and trust in where we're going, knowing that we've come through that. Like we've done that. Okay, we can keep moving, and we handled the hard well. Right?
We can do hard things. Right?
We can do hard things.
We can do hard things together. Josh, this has been fun. We're out of time for this one. We got to know you and your story with Broad River, I think, really, really well. But I'd really like to bring you back next week to talk more about like you as a leader. You willing to come back next week? Let's make this a 2-parter.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, guys. That is Josh Stanley, Stories from the River. We bring you fresh new content every Wednesday. Please mash like or subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's on YouTube, Amazon, Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your fresh podcast content. And let us know how we're doing. We love feedback. And Josh, we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.